So today is Friday. This week we have been reciting Bhagavad Gita 10:8. We'll just continue recitation. So Achutpriya Mataji, you can start.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Mataji.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitam. Translation. Translation. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Thank you, Mata. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Isha.
सर्वस्य प्रभवो मत्सः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा समन्वितः. Okay. I'm the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Madhava. You didn't join?
I'm the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know
Rasapriya.
अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवो मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावः समन्वितः. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Neelambari Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. It's the verse number is 10:8, right?
Yes.
Aham sarvasya pravaha matah sarva pravartate iti mam bhajanti mam buddha bhava samanita. Translation. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So Bhagavad Gita 10:8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanditaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So the other day we were discussing about this verse. So aham sarvasya prabhavaha. Prabhavaha we saw means utpatti and pradurbhav. Utpatti means creation, pradurbhav means manifestation. Everything material is created and anything which is spiritual is manifested. It's not created. So prabhavaha means all spiritual and material things. Everything which is spiritual and material is emanating from me, Krishna says. Mattah sarvam pravartate. Everything is coming from me. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. The wise, buddha means wise. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service. Right, bhajante mam. So they engage in my devotional service and buddha bhava samanvitaha, with all their hearts, right, with great feeling, with all their hearts, they worship me. So, yeah, I'm just looking at Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this verse. Yeah, so this we discussed already. So when you say Pradurbhav, so what all is included in Pradurbhav? The living entities, yes, Jivatmas. This is also the Lord Shakti. It's not created, it is existing eternally. Vedas are eternal, they are not created at any time. So they are also manifested. like this. So these are the things which are also manifested by the Lord. They're coming from the Lord. The living entities, the Vedas are coming from the Lord. His Shakti is the material energy is coming from the Lord. And also the creation, whatever we see of the material things, that's also coming from the Lord. Then, so who can understand this vibhuti about the Lord? Only one who got the mercy of the Lord can understand this vibhuti. So the previous verse had said, verse 7, we read that one who knows my opulences and my mystic power, right? He will engage in my devotional service without a doubt. That's what we learned in text 7. Etam vibhutim yogam cha mamayo vetti tatvatah. One who knows, certainly, tatvatah. So, avikalpena yogena yujyate natra samshaya. He will certainly, without any doubt, he will engage in my devotional service. One who knows about my vibhutis. So, what is that vibhuti? In this verse, that vibhuti we are seeing, one of that vibhuti is everything which is spiritual and material, it is coming from the Lord. This is his vibhuti. One who knows this vibhuti, he will engage in devotional service. So, devotional service, again, this is also, we read this also in the second verse of the 10th chapter, that devotional service is not something which you can do. So, knowing about the vibhutis of the Lord is not possible simply by studying the scriptures. Again and again, we hear this. In Srila Prabhupada's lectures also we hear this. Yesterday His Holiness Subhak Swami Maharaj gave class in Mayapur on Balaram Purnima. And Maharaj also made the same point. That Bhagavad, Srimad Bhagavatam should be heard from a person Bhagavatam. Then you will get bhakti. Bhagavat has to be heard from a Bhagavat. One who is living his life according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Then it will have effect. So similarly here also, simply by studying the scripture, you will not do bhakti. You will not understand the vibhutis of the Lord. Then what does it mean to know about the vibhutis of the Lord? What does it mean? One who has mercy of Bhagavan on him, he can know the vibhutis of the Lord. One who has mercy of Bhagavan on him, he can know the vibhutis, he can know the opulence of the Lord. And one who knows the opulence will engage in pure devotional service. That means ultimately what do we need to do devotional service? We need the Lord's mercy. And again, how the Lord's mercy comes? It comes through his devotees. So bhakti is awarded. It is not something which you achieve. Of course, we do sadhana, but by sadhana itself, we are not able to achieve sadhana. You remember that pastime, Yashoda Maya tying Krishna, 2 fingers too short. What are those 2 fingers? One is our sadhana, our endeavor, our hard work. Yashoda Mai's hard work. But simply by her hard work, she was not able to tie Krishna. When was she able to tie Krishna? When Krishna allowed himself to be tied by her. But when did he allow himself to be tied by her? When he was pleased by her endeavor, by her hard work. He was completely satisfied. He was moved by her hard work. Then he allowed himself. So similarly, ultimately we get bhakti by the Lord's mercy. When he awards it to us, when he shows his mercy, then we will get bhakti. But for him to show his mercy, we have to get his attention. How do we get his attention? Then we have to do sadhana bhakti very sincerely. By that we get his attention. But simply by our sadhana, we are not going to be able to understand the Lord. Like that. So bhakti is awarded, it is not achieved. Right? So first of all, the mercy of the Lord comes through the mercy of a devotee, Vaishnava. And then again the Lord's mercy comes when we start practicing sadhana bhakti, the Lord's mercy comes. Then when you get the mercy of a devotee, then by that mercy you will begin your sadhana. Now by doing that sadhana, when you get the Lord's mercy, then you will have faith in the Lord's words. Then whatever statements the Lord is making, you will get faith in His words, in His vibhuti. Then you will understand. So mattah sarvam pravartate. Everything is coming from the Lord. Yeah. So, okay. So I think, yeah, there's some more discussion here about bhava samanvitaha. Bhava samanvitaha means to have a relationship with the Lord, right? You can have in Dasya Bhav, you can have in Sakhya Bhav, to have a relationship. Bhava Samanvitaha means Bhava Yuktaha. So someone who has this Dasya, etc., relationship with the Lord. Bhava, that's what it means. Yeah. So that much is said in text 8. So we can stop the text 8 here. We'll continue with Srimad Bhagavatam now. So we've been reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4. Yeah. So we were reading about Ambarish Maharaj's qualities. Hare Krishna. So I connected with the phone. I didn't know I could do that. So we can just read some Bhagavatam. You're able to hear me?
Yes,
I don't
Mataji.
hear.
Yes,
You're hearing.
Mataji.
Okay. Okay, so continue. So we are in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4. Yeah. So we read that Ambarish Maharaj's citizens were accustomed to hearing and chanting about the glories of the activities of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they never aspired for why they were not attracted to the pleasures of the heavenly planets. Then the next verse said, those who are saturated with the transcendental happiness of rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead are uninterested even in the achievements of great mystics, for such achievements do not enhance the transcendental bliss felt by a devotee who always thinks of Krishna within the core of his heart. That means a devotee is experiencing so much transcendental happiness that the pleasures achieved through mystic perfection or through jnana or through elevation to heavenly planets, all these pleasures are insignificant in comparison to the transcendental pleasure experienced by rendering devotional service. So now we will go to the next verse, text 26. You remember who's supposed to read today?
You wrote down that
Anyone?
in the bottom of the message. I think so.
I did. Okay. Let me
Hare
check.
Krishna Mataji. I think Prajna is supposed to read Mataji.
Okay. She's here. No. So we'll just begin with Achyut Priya Mataji then, right? I said, yeah, Vindhyavali Mataji is also not here. So we'll just begin with Achyut Priya Mataji. Okay. Sa itthambhakti yogena tapo yuktena parthivaha swadharmena harim prinan sarvan kaman shanairjahau. Mataji.
The king of this planet, Maharaj Ambarish, thus performed devotional service to the Lord, and in this endeavor practiced severe austerity, always satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his constitutional activities. He gradually gave up all material desires. Thank you, Mataji. Krishna.
So Maharaj Ambarish, who was the king of this planet, performed devotional service to the Lord, and in this endeavor practiced severe austerity. So we saw that although he had so much material opulence, he didn't think of it of any value for himself, for his enjoyment. His interest was only in serving the Supreme Lord. So always satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his constitutional activities. What are the constitutional activities? Constitutionally, we are all servants of the Supreme Lord. So too, bhakti means Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. With your senses, you're satisfying the master of the senses. This is the constitutional activity of the living entity. So Ambarish Maharaj was always satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his constitutional activities, and by this he gradually gave up all material desires. So let's read Srila Prabhupada's purport. Achintade Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Arunita.
Severe austerities in the practice of devotional service are of many varieties. For example, in worshipping the deity in the temple, there are certainly laborious activities.
Laborious activities.
Laborious activities. Sri
Sri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shringaratan Mandira Marjanada.
One must decorate the deity, cleanse the temple, bring water from the Ganges and Yamuna, continue the routine work, perform arati many times, prepare first-class food for the deity, prepare dresses, and so on. In this way, one must constantly be engaged in various activities, and the hard labor involved is certainly an austerity. Similarly, the hard labor involved in preaching, preparing literature, preaching to atheistic men, and distributing literature door to door is of course an austerity.
Tapoyukta.
Tapodivyam
Putraka.
Such austerity is necessary. Yena sattvam
Shuddhyet.
By such austerity in devotional service, one is purified in material existence. Kaman Sanair Jaha. Indeed, such austerity leads one to the constitutional position of devotional service. In this way, one can give up material desires. And as soon as one is free from material desires, he is free from the repetition of birth and death, old age and disease.
Yeah. So what is Srila Prabhupada saying in the purport? In the translation we read that Ambarish Maharaj performed devotional service and he practiced severe austerity. And he was always satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this, he gave up all material desires. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining, severe austerities in the practice of devotional service are of many varieties. For example, in worshipping the deity in the temple, there are certainly laborious activities. What are the laborious activities in worshipping the deity? First of all, you have to maintain cleanliness and you have to maintain punctuality. So, does it take energy or not? You have to be there on time, every day, every time, regularly, punctually. And then maintaining cleanliness, that takes hard work or not? Cleaning, and then decorating the deity, cleansing the temple, bringing water from the river, from the Ganges, from Yamuna, and continuing the routine work day after day, right? Exactly at a certain time, you have to do the arati, you have to cook for the Lord, you have to clean. So this takes energy, it's laborious. Arti, how many artis? So many artis, so many times arti has to be performed. And whatever offerings are made to the deity, whether food or dresses or flowers, it has to be first class. So one must constantly be engaged in various activities, and this involves hard labor. So that is also an austerity. In that time, maybe you can sit comfortably or maybe sleep comfortably. But the austerity is you do that hard labor in order to serve Krishna, serve the deity. So that is the austerity in deity worship. Similarly, the hard labor involved in preaching, preparing literature, preaching to atheistic men. So some of you go out on book distribution. So you know the hard work involved, right? And preaching to people, new people who don't know anything, who don't want to hear about Krishna consciousness, somehow or other getting their attention, and then trying to convince them to take to Krishna consciousness, to take a book. This also involves hard labor. In preparing literature, distributing literature door to door. So all this is austerity, tapoyuktena. But such austerity is necessary. Rishabdev tells his sons, Tapo Divyam Putraka. This human form of life is meant for austerity. Yena Sattvam Shuddhyed. By such austerity in devotional service, one becomes purified of material existence. So that is the connection here Srila Prabhupada is bringing. That Ambarish Maharaj was engaged in order to satisfy the Supreme Lord. He was practicing severe austerity, and by this he became purified of all material desires, it is said. So such austerity, and in the purport Srila Prabhupada is saying such austerity leads one to the. So when you perform and again austerity is as recommended by the Acharya in the scripture, not you cannot make up your own austerities, right? Sometimes we do different types of fasts and different types of man-made, like self-made austerities. That's not required. But austerities which are recommended by the Acharya, that when you perform that type of austerity in devotional service, it leads to one's constitutional position of devotional service. In this way, one can give up material desires. And as soon as one is freed from material desires, he is freed from this samsara, this repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease. So we'll go to the next verse. Griheshu dareshu suteshu bandhushu द्विपोत्तमस्यन्दनवाजि वस्तुषु अक्षय्यरत्नाभरणाम्बरादिषु अनन्तकोशेष्वकरोद सन्मतिम्. Aditi Lata Mataji.
Mataji, I'll read the translation and she can read the purport. Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Please accept my humble obeisances. Yes, Srila Prabhupada.
Maharaj Ambarish gave up all attachment to household affairs, wives, children, friends, and relatives, to the best of powerful elephants, in beautiful chariots, carts, horses, and inexhaustible jewels, and to ornaments, garments, and inexhaustible treasury. He gave up attachment to all of them, regarding them as temporary and material. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So we saw that in the initial shlokas also it was said that he considered his kingdom, his position as the emperor, he considered it like a dream. So which intelligent person becomes very proud of his achievements in a dream? He knows that the dream has to end and you have to wake up to reality. So therefore he never got carried away by his material position. So the same thing is said in this verse also. Maharaj Ambarish gave up all attachment to household affairs. Attachment, it doesn't say that he gave up his duties or his responsibilities as a king. Although it's not required for him to do, nevertheless, to set an example, he carried out his duties as a Kshatriya very responsibly. So we also saw that how he performed yagyas, he performed austerities under the guidance of Vaishnava Brahmanas. He did his duties. Nevertheless, although he was carrying out his duties, he was free from all attachment. Ambarish Maharaj gave up all attachment to household affairs, wives, children, friends, and relatives. No attachment. To the best of powerful elephants. Well, Kshatriyas, they must have attachment to their armies, nice quality elephants and horses and chariots like that. So he gave up attachment to the best of powerful elephants, to beautiful chariots, carts, horses, and also Kshatriyas are normally quite attached to collecting valuable jewels, right? They have gems, diamonds, like that. So he gave up all attachment to inexhaustible jewels and to ornaments, garments, and an inexhaustible treasury. He was not attached to his treasury either. He gave up attachment to all of them, regarding them as temporary and material. All this is not eternal. This is not going to last. So, like a caretaker, he was taking care of his duty, but at the same time, he didn't have any attachment in them because he saw all of it as temporary and material. His only attachment was to his service, devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Purport. Aditi Lata Mataji.
Yes, Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Anashaktasya vishayan yatharham upayunjata. Material possessions can be accepted as far as they can be used in devotional service. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulasya varjanam. In preaching, many things considered material are needed. A devotee should not have any attachment for such material involvements as house, wife, children, friends, and cars. Maharaj Ambarish, for example, had all such things, but he was not attached to them. This is the effect of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Pareshanu Bhavo Viraktir Anyatra Cha. Bhagavatam 11.2.42. One who is advanced in devotional service has no attachment for material things for sense enjoyment, but for preaching to spread the glories of the Lord, he accepts such things without attachment. Anasaktasya vishayan yatharham upayunjat. Everything can be used to the extent that it can be engaged in Krishna's service.
Yes, so this Srila Prabhupada had explained in one of the previous verses also. We were discussing about Falgu Vairagya, isn't it? Thinking that, oh, this is material, I will reject it. No. If it can be used in Krishna's service, use it in Krishna's service. You don't become attached to it for your sense enjoyment. But if it can be used in Krishna's service, you use it. Right? So Srila Prabhupada is saying that in preaching, many things can be used. So use it in Krishna's service. In preaching, many things which are considered to be material are needed. For example, Prabhupada often gives the example of a microphone. It is material, but using that material thing, you can reach out to more people. You can spread this Krishna consciousness. It's not that we cannot live without a microphone, but if it is there anyway, why not use it in Krishna's service? A devotee should not have any attachment for material involvements. Of course, he should not have any attachment for himself. But if it is already available, instead of rejecting it, saying that this is material, why not use it in Krishna's service? Ambarish Maharaj, for example, had all such things. What did he have? He had a house, he had a wife, children, friends, and cars. Srila Prabhupada is saying cars means must be chariots and carts like that. He was not personally attached to them. He was not attached to any of them. So this not having attachment, although you have those things, but you're not attached to them, this is the effect of Bhakti Yoga. I was listening to Srila Prabhupada's morning walk today. Srila Prabhupada was saying that we hear that you should not be attached, right? You should not be attached. You hear, but to actually become detached, it's not going to happen like that so soon. It can take many lifetimes to become detached. It's not just a theoretical thing that we hear that yes, I should be detached and then now immediately I'm detached. No, it's not going to happen like that. So this detachment is actually the effect of Bhakti Yoga. The more you progress in Bhakti, that detachment will come. Bhakti pareshanu bhavo viraktir anyatra cha. One who is advanced in devotional service will not have any attachment for material things, for sense enjoyment. So it is not artificially practiced. You may understand theoretically and you may even endeavor, but actually the result will come when you advance in bhakti. So, but for preaching, preaching means to spread the glories of the Lord. You may accept those things which can be engaged in the Lord's service. Anasaktasya vishayan yatharaham upayunjatah. You don't be attached to it yourself for your sense gratification, but you use it for spreading the glories of the Supreme Lord. That's what our acharyas have done. Srila Prabhupada traveled in airplanes or not? To spread the Krishna consciousness movement. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur maintained a car for preaching purpose only. He wouldn't allow that to be used for other things, but for preaching purpose. So those things which can be used in spreading the glories of the Lord, don't reject them, thinking them to be material. Everything can be used to the extent that it can be engaged in Krishna's service. So how to use things in Krishna's service? For that you will need the expert guidance of a devotee, a pure devotee. That devotee can actually use things, seeing them in the proper connection and use them in Krishna's service. Okay, so I think we will stop Srimad Bhagavatam reading here. We got some interruptions in between, but maybe we will, let me see, if there's not a big purport in Bhagavad Gita, then we'll just read one shloka. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 18, text 73. Big purport, so we won't do it today. We'll do it tomorrow or Monday. Let's read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. So Srila Prabhupada is in Bombay, waiting to board the Jaladuta. Continuation. Finally, Mrs. Morarji scheduled a place for him on one of her ships, the Jaladuta, which was sailing from Calcutta on August 13th. She had made certain that he would travel on a ship whose captain understood the needs of a vegetarian and a Brahmana. Mrs. Morarji told the Jaladuta's captain, Arun Pandya, to carry extra vegetables and fruits for the Swami. Mr. Choksi spent the last 2 days with Bhaktivedanta Swami in Bombay, picking up the pamphlets at the press, purchasing clothes, and driving him to the station to catch the train for Calcutta. So Srila Prabhupada is going to go to Calcutta from Bombay. So before that, remember, he had, I think, about 500 pamphlets printed about the Srimad Bhagavatam. And also, Mr. Choksi purchased some warm clothing for Srila Prabhupada. He arrived in Calcutta about 2 weeks before the Jaladuta's departure. Although he had lived much of his life in the city, he now had nowhere to stay. Prabhupada was brought up in Calcutta city, and he spent much of his life in Calcutta. But now he had nowhere to stay. It was as he had written in his Vrindavan bhajan, I have my wife, sons, daughters, grandsons, everything, but I have no money, so they are a fruitless glory. Although in this city he had been so carefully nurtured as a child, those early days were also gone forever. Where have my loving father and mother gone to now? And where are all my elders, who were my own folk? Who will give me news of them? Tell me who. All that is left of this family life is a list of names. Out of hundreds of people in Calcutta whom Bhaktivedanta Swami knew, he chose to call on Mr. Shishir Bhattacharya, the flamboyant Kirtan singer, who had met a year before at the governor's house in Lucknow. Mr. Bhattacharya was not a relative, not a disciple, nor even a close friend, but he was willing to help. Bhaktivedanta Swami called at his place and informed him that he would be leaving on a cargo ship in a few days. He needed a place to stay, and he would like to give some lectures. Mr. Bhattacharya immediately began to arrange a few private meetings at friends' homes where he would sing and Bhaktivedanta Swami would then speak. So we will stop here today. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you all very much for joining.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you,
All of you
Mataji.
have a wonderful day in Krishna
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
consciousness.
Hare Krishna.
Tomorrow is Saturday, so we won't have Bhagavatam reading.